Hi everyone. Today, welcome to our panel on crypto hot takes. Today we're gonna discuss emerging trends and what's driving adoption in crypto these days. So glad to introduce myself and introduce my fellow panel members. My name is Laura. I run my own Web3 consultancy in PR, where I elevate brands and individuals, and I help them navigate the space in public opinion. So floor to you guys.
Hey guys, my name is Ovi, or OSF on Twitter, I guess. I used to be a TradFi trader for about 10 years, moved into crypto in 2021. Really just a trader, angel investor in a few different projects. I also have my own project, which is Rect, from the Rect Guy NFT. And that's me.
Hey everyone, my name is Michaël from the Poppe. I am from Amsterdam, in the crypto markets for about 8 years, originally as a trader, and currently we run multiple ventures. Of one is on the screen, which is Emma Trading Consultancy, which is currently transferring towards a liquid fund, as we all hate MICA, and Emma Capital, which is a venture capital, and we have a marketing firm that starts its own podcast in a month, all based in Amsterdam.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne Morgan. Have been in marketing for about more than 20 years, as not only in Web3, as I'm a bit older than Web3, unfortunately. So I worked a lot in multiple corporate companies, Fortune 500 companies, and recently switched to purely Web3 space. Now I'm heading up marketing for Fintopio, that's the Telegram-based crypto wallet. So inviting you also to explore as well.
Great to welcome you guys. So we're going to get started with the market sentiment shift. So we see that recent data is showing a bearish sentiment in the crypto market with a current sentiment score of 27. So how does this bearish sentiment compare to historical trends, and what factors do you think are contributing to the current market mood?
Should I start? Yeah, I don't know. I think this has been a tough year for people in crypto because you've had a year where Bitcoin is up, 50% on the year. And then that's it. ETH is down on the year. Sol is flat on the year. Tons of altcoins are down on the year. And so unless you're in Bitcoin or meme coins, of which some of them are up a lot, but the majority of them are probably, haven't done that well. You've had a pretty tough year in a year where NASDAQ is up crazy amounts, stocks are ripping, the Fed started to cut rates, you've had this crazy moves and stuff like Nvidia, for example, other big tech stocks. So it's a bit of a weird one because we're sitting here and we should be like, this has been a great year for risk assets, but most people feel a bit beaten up or cut up in crypto because I think there's a sort of feeling to want to buy something else other than Bitcoin to try and chase that beta. So I think that's why the sentiment is where it is now, because people are sitting there on alts maybe or other coins away from Bitcoin that are down on the year. But the way I see it is I just think this, we perhaps made a mistake in identifying this as mid-cycle, and perhaps we're actually just at the beginning of the cycle because we're just about to go through a period of the Fed cutting rates from a base rate that's the highest it's been in about 40 years, alongside this massive AI bubble, alongside a strong US economy. So the macro backdrop is, in my opinion, extremely strong. And God forbid Trump wins the elections and actually makes Bitcoin a US reserve currency, things would really get crazy. So I just think in terms of price action, we're at a tough spot because coins are down on the year. Most coins are down on the year. But to me, that just shows it's actually very early within the cycle and maybe at the beginning of the actual true cycle, rather than people feeling it's all over and it's going to get bearish again.
I think I agree on most of those points. I mean, I went to Bitcoin Amsterdam on Wednesday, and if you go to a Bitcoin event, it's a whole different vibe. Everybody's cheering around, it's a bull cycle, blah, blah, which is great. For them, altcoins going down is also massive. Anyways, if you look at the Bitcoin price action currently, we're actually just mimicking 2020 and last year. Last year, we had a flat period for the entire summer. And then through October or so, we started to break out. And if you look at the altcoins, they started to move in the exact same period. So I think in that sense, the sentiment is super bearish because altcoins are underperforming compared to Bitcoin. But through that, the gap between fundamental growth and the price has never been as big as it is currently. And I think with China finally opening up and starting to print, and also the Fed doing the rate cuts, DeFi becomes more interesting for institutionals, which means that each yields are going up, more money flows into DeFi, which wakes up the entire market. So I think maybe even around these weeks we've already started the bull cycle, and it's going to be great in the coming few months, and everybody's cheering around again.
Yeah, well, just maybe to add a few things. Obviously, from 27 number is not definitely not the unseen in crypto history. And whilst for blue chips like Bitcoin, Ethereum, so they still kind of tend to serve as more of a safe haven for digital assets, yeah. And newer projects, they're the ones that in this like bearish market can filter the ones who don't really have any real use cases and any kind of value utility behind. And I think it's really important here. So in terms of like from for example my industry specifically, and so we've seen the growth of mass adoption of crypto services, especially wallets. Let's say like in last we launched like less than 6 months ago, and we managed to grow to 8 million active users without any paid behind, without kind of any big activities of celebrity endorsements or anything, just purely organically. Why? Because we just went where the audience was, and that's Telegram. And just basically, I think it's also about the role of the players in the space, and just make sure that you also kind of try to facilitate this mass adoption, because at the end of the day, it will be win-win for everyone. Just make it like really easy, and just kind of make it as easy as the stuff, the apps that they use in their daily life, and not to kind of try to overcomplicate things, because this also doesn't help generally and longer term.
That makes sense. Okay, so we're touching earlier on the meme coin landscape, and with the current bearish sentiment, how do you see the meme coin landscape evolving? Do you think that we're likely to see a resurgence of interest in established meme coins, or the emergence of new ones as a form of market counterculture?
Yeah, I mean, look, emergence of new meme coins, it's so easy to make meme coins now. You literally go onto Pump.fun, make a meme coin in a few seconds, and I think as a result, it has caused an oversaturation of meme coins. Like, if you think about the meme coin cycle in 2021, there were probably about 3 to 5 big coins people got behind, and that allowed something like SHIB and Doge to get to $80 billion market caps, because everyone was behind the same meme coins. Whereas now you have literally millions of meme coins, and everyone is behind different meme coins, and I think the demand is split between them. But that being said, I think that market will continue to do well. It's just been a real sort of like power to the people type move this year, I think. In the past, when you've had these big alt cycles, it's been like, oh, well, these, the people really making the money are the VCs and the angel investors who get in, at seed level and then end up making a 50x or 100x or 1000x, and they end up dumping on everyone else. And that was kind of what's happened before. Whereas with meme coins, there's this vibe at least, and whether it's true or not is a different question, but there's a vibe at least where it's like, oh, this is anti-VC, these guys didn't get invest in this stuff, and it's more of retail winning. So I think we'll see a continuation of that, just because every time it has felt like the meme coin market is about to die. When Bitcoin rallies, alts don't really move as much, Bitcoin dominance goes higher, but meme coins do move higher. And I just think every cycle has its casino, and 2021 was potentially NFTs. And this year, quite clearly to me, the casino is meme coins. And that's not to say I'm really bullish meme coins for the next century or whatever. I think most of them will drop 99%, but for this cycle, I think that's where you want to have at least some chips or some skin in the game. Yeah,
I mean, I'm a little bit angry about meme coins, as I've completely missed the boat, I guess. So, I mean, it's also very complicated to get the right memes. Yeah. I think people are underestimating the complexity of just choosing the right ones. And I think meme coins are here to stay. However, the dilution of meme coins is just going through the roof. Yesterday I heard that in the last period, 2.1 million meme coins were created. 2.1 million. And it just reminds me of NFTs back in the day, or ICOs. It's just a new jacket for someone. So, basically retail traders trying to chase the golden pocket or the golden trade to get to $1 million level. And I think at this point, as every chain is trying to create its own meme coin, we get to the end of the curve for now, and slowly but surely money is going to rotate into different aspects. So maybe DeFi or any other narratives that starts to wake up. So the fact that the only topic that's being discussed is meme coins as a whole is just something that's a red flag for me to step into. The only thing I do or want to do is trade them on sexes as just level trading, which is fine for me. But I think if you want to get upside, then there are way better projects out there with less risk that can generate a lot of return for yourself.
So a bit of a speculative one following here. So you wouldn't say that institutional players can be behind meme coins at all?
I mean, there's definitely, I mean, I'm not going to lie, there's definitely like VCs and stuff in meme coins. That's the reason why something like WIF can pump to billions of dollars, right? It's not just you and me buying like a bit of WIF, but and also like the guys running and initiating these meme coins, they're basically like cabals that people, you know, a few people get together and like, cool, like we're going to create this and we're going to get behind it and push it higher. So there is a lot of that, and it's not really truly this true retail thing that people proclaim it to be. It's just like the same stuff happening, but instead of being done in an official way through an official VC investment with the SAFT and all that stuff, it's just like done behind closed doors. But you know, the other thing is like if you're thinking about mass adoption and getting normal people into this world, like what's easier for someone to understand? Like the 69th iteration of a random L2 EVM parallelization chain, or just like a dog with a hat? Like it's completely different things. And I think that as a speculative product, and let's just be honest, like people love to gamble, and that's what a lot of crypto is. As a speculative product, meme coins, I think, are just much easier for people, an average person to grasp than actual blockchain tech. And I just think you can't really fade the retail market. Like, yeah, big money will go into tech, but like, you know, retail degenerates will just go into like retail degenerate stuff, which right now is meme coins, I think.
Just maybe from my perspective, I think we should also not forget about the whole kind of sentiment and how the meme coins, you know, initially appeared. So it was all about kind of reaction, you know, to find some internet humor, and it was not the sentiment that, oh, just get rich overnight. Yeah, and that's I think now that actually drives this. Okay, I really create the meme coins, so you know, just invest in meme coins just because I want to get rich overnight. And not like what was initial. So that's why it's like, you know, barely any meme coins repeat the, you know, history of the initial ones that have been created. And I think especially like talking about like, you know, Saturn and Telegram mini apps ecosystem. So you've seen a lot of kind of tap to earn breed of meme coins appearing. So I won't be naming them, but I think we all know what I'm talking about, especially now, you know, in the last few weeks. And this year's particular, I think it was like a really big trend on that. And I think the challenge here is that, again, so the community, they invest their time, which is, you know, the most precious asset we have. They're saying, okay, you don't need to invest anything, you just, you know, like tap and, you know, you become rich. That's kind of like the false promises. And ultimately just wasting, you know, half of their life just kind of tapping and then just getting, you know, when the airdrop happens, they get like, you know, barely like $1 or something like that. They get frustrated. And at the end, I think industry suffers because, again, the projects, which are really good projects with some strong utility and, you know, solutions behind, they get this impact, yes, in terms of like lack of trust from the community. I think, again, it's really important. And it's also the role of the community, you know, to support the project that have something more than just, you know, this kind of idea to become rich overnight. That's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and also touching up on what you've been saying on VCs. I think lately the VC landscape is changing a little, which means that projects are raising on lower valuations and just doing OTC rounds at a certain stage for growth, which I think is fundamentally strong. But then the other day I received an OTC opportunity on an animal, and I was like, what? So I think it's happening. VCs are jumping into meme coins, which tells a lot, I guess. And I think that when it comes to retail investors that get into the markets, they try to get that golden ticket towards becoming a millionaire. And I think that in essence is quite sad because people just want to escape their own lifestyle as they are in. They see inflation and all those things and want to get money fast. But I think in the open markets right now, I think it's a safer bet to get into some real projects that are heavily undervalued. That once the bull market starts to kick in, those are going to do a 10 to 40x anyways. So that's rather easier than jumping into a sole meme coin and then trying to get the right one. I think going into a sex and buying something there makes more sense.
Can I just do a quick, I'm curious, just like a quick survey of the audience, like how many people own Bitcoin? Like put your hand up if you own Bitcoin. And how many people own meme coins? About 50-50, but like that's what I'm saying, like it's both. Everyone's involved in meme coins now to some extent.
Yeah. So
But Murat was right. He said
Yeah.
he said in 2021 and 2017 you could have bought some altcoins to make some serious money. And for retail investors, altcoins just changed to meme coins.
Yeah.
So that's a clear statement that's actually true. So I get it why people are chasing it. I mean, if I were in that position, I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
and it's a form of reaching generational wealth for some people in emerging markets as well. I see, but yeah, so from a reputational perspective, I used to be very critical with meme coins, but now, as we were saying earlier, I see them as a form of mini religions, if you will. So yeah, we're going to move on from meme coins a little bit. We're going to move to another factor that is driving adoption, which is social media. So how has the role of social media in driving crypto trends evolved recently in your eyes?
The only thing that I think is different really now compared to about 3 years ago is stuff on TikTok, which again is meme coins. So I'm trying not to go back to meme coins, but yeah, I think you probably have what I would say is this year, optically and anecdotally, there seems to be a resurgence of younger people getting into crypto. I think if you spoke about Bitcoin or alts a few years ago, it wouldn't necessarily be people who are 18 or 19 or 20, right? It would be people who are older, who maybe were genuinely investing or had an academic thought with regard to Bitcoin, whereas now it's pretty young people getting in, and that is through social media. And I've never really seen anything on Instagram, but definitely TikTok. You see a ton of crypto stuff on TikTok. Crypto Twitter will always be crypto Twitter. And I think more people than we realize use crypto Twitter as their trading signals and let it affect their investment decisions and stuff. So I think that plays a really important part. If you created a bot with crypto Twitter signals and stuff, I'm sure there's some interesting data from it. But yeah, it's massive. It's just the day and age we live in, and I think that's how people discover stuff and get sucked into it, I think.
In some ways, social media is completely the same as 4 years ago, but some things have changed. I think TikTok, but that existed 3 years already. I think Telegram had a very big boom in the past 6 to 7 months. And the second thing is it becomes political. I mean, Trump is over-leveraging his platform through Twitter with Elon Musk to get more people into crypto, I guess. And the third thing is that, which is the worst part, is that KOLs figured that they can make a lot of money out of partnerships and stuff in 2021. So the new group of KOLs are just using engagement boosters, fake follows, and all those things to get the biggest deals going and to make as much money from themselves. I think that is that's something cringe, but I get it. I mean, if you make millions as a KOL, yeah, sure, why not? But that's not really improving the markets. I think those three things have changed since, I would say, 2021.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I was on TikTok, and I think if we look at it from the perspective of the crypto audience, if you split it into native crypto and non-native crypto, so you have clear channels which are more for crypto natives YouTube and X, and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, which is more for crypto non-natives. And obviously the content they provide there is slightly different. Yes, you have lots of kind of more in-depth, analysis, news hijacking, kind of personal opinions on YouTube and X, and more quick bite size on the on TikTok, for example. And again, I don't think it's a bad thing because it kind of opens up the industry for more younger generation. It's kind of again easier, just quicker, the mass adoption journey in this case, which is probably positive. In terms of Discord and Telegram, so I still believe it's more how do I say, it's more in line with the whole idea of kind of decentralization and the social media influence especially, yeah, because in this case the community or the influencers there is not just some bigger names, but it's kind of owned by the group. And I think that's generally quite a good thing. And obviously, especially in our case, Telegram is definitely booming, and it works really well for us.
That's great. So in terms of like new platforms emerging, such as Lens, Firecaster, have you guys like experimented with them? What do you think of them as well?
I did use Firecaster for a bit, but it just didn't really take off, did it? I think, well, Warpcaster, I guess, was the app on Firecaster. Like stuff like that makes sense on paper. Friendtech for a while. I think what I would say is if it's a platform where you can make money from participating in it, like Friendtech was, then you can get a lot of adoption. If it's something where you don't really get paid to use it, something like Warpcast, then yeah, you'll get people who will appreciate it, but it won't really take off. It's really hard to dethrone the current social media platforms. You really have to have something different, I think, or incentivize people with a token, but then what happens post-token? People just stop using it and move on to something else, so it's hard to create something sustainable. I don't know what the answer is. Like, I can't think of what I would need to make me stop using Twitter and start using something else instead. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think there are multiple platforms trying to get a market share. I think Lively is a new one, Friendtech and Firecast and all those things, but you just can't take off. In terms of my own platform usage and trying to use other ones, I'm kind of a boomer, I guess, which is that I try to use Twitter, and that's basically what I can do. I find it hard to post on Instagram too, and then you've got Telegram, YouTube, all sorts of things. So it's impossible to handle everything, yeah. So I try to have a life, which is posting occasionally on Twitter, and then I'm fine. So yeah, I don't really mind if there's going to be a bigger other platform, which probably in 5 to 10 years from now we got new platforms that are going to be bigger, probably Web3 based. I don't know which one. I just see confirmation somewhere and I just jump onto that one. That's fine.
Yeah, I was just recently having a kind of discussion in the team about Facebook. And we're really kind of like, even within the marketing team, we're like really struggling to get into Facebook because it's kind of like, I don't know, it just feels like, I don't know guys, how are you feeling about it, about Facebook generally? But if like, historically, let's say like, 10 years ago, Facebook was one of the, main channels to be in. Now, especially in this space, it's like, yeah, you just hardly use it. Okay, you need to kind of have some presence because in some markets, especially for the big projects, it's still relatively big. Yeah, but generally.
So it's a game of aligning the incentives with the users, isn't it? And Telegram is doing a really good job there. So what future do you think that current projects that are launching either their campaigns or their new features on Telegram have? What's the outlook for these projects on the current landscape?
I think Telegram based, right?
Yeah.
Actually, we have been discussing that internally a lot. I think Telegram is quickly growing, the Tom blockchain as well. I think there's a lot of potential in the chain itself, but regulatory, they are fighting it back. So we have a hard time deciding whether or not we should be investing into anything in the Tom blockchain, because Telegram is required for the Tom blockchain to actually work. If Telegram continues to take off, which I think it will be, it's probably going to be in the top 10 anyways. It's super smooth, super easy. It can gather a lot of new users into crypto, just like gaming can be. So I think it's going to be great. But then again, the amount of tap to earn or any of sorts of projects that do the exact same, there's also going to be a dilution, just like Memecoins. So you just need to pick the right ones or invest into the chain. And then I think that tone is relatively undervalued at this stage.
Yeah, just maybe to add from Telegram, again, I'm a big fan of Telegram, not just because, so even before I started with Fintopia, so I use Telegram a lot, but it also fluctuates from country to country. In some countries Telegram is massive, in some countries still just developing, and we're analyzing a lot of trends, so how many people are using Telegram worldwide, and it keeps growing like massively. So we do see future there for sure. And in terms of like, for example, if you take some platforms like WeChat, for example, in China, yeah, which is kind of a messenger, you have payment there, you pretty much just have one platform for everything. And so I kind of, my projection on Telegram is it will be like that. And exactly, for example, what we're building there is a wallet. So the kind of intention is to get there, just from kind of user experience perspective, just super easy. Send a message, send the payment, just kind of just using your username, as simple as that. So yeah.
Yeah, that is great. So moving on to the last boring bit, regulatory impact on market mood. So how are ongoing regulatory developments affecting investor sentiment towards different types of assets?
I think investor sentiment with regard to regulation is improving just because there's this prospect of Trump getting into power and potentially, I mean, he'll deregulate lots of things, but crypto is obviously a big focus for him. And the idea of making Bitcoin a US reserve currency is obviously a huge thing as well. So I think from a regulatory standpoint, the sentiment is improving. I think it was around this time last year maybe, or even like early 2023 when it felt pretty tough, like the SEC going after altcoins, going after ETH. But since then we've had multiple cases where the SEC has lost and cases where they've withdrawn. And don't forget, the SEC also approved the Bitcoin ETF as well. So I think with Gary Gensler actually having the casting vote and approval. So I do think the regulatory landscape, the regulatory sentiment feels like it's improving. The landscape hasn't like truly changed yet. And I think there's this hope that with, regardless of whoever wins, that Gensler ends up stepping down and the US backdrop changes. One thing I would say, I think the most bullish thing for all of this and for everything really is like, the US owns about $13 billion of Bitcoin, I think it is. They're $13 billion of Bitcoin. It's like the second or third largest holder, I think, of it. And right now the fear is like, oh, they're going to like sell their Bitcoin and just going to like tank the entire market. But imagine a world where Trump wins and he actually follows through on what he says and they don't sell it. They actually make Bitcoin a federal reserve currency and a US reserve currency and they end up buying more Bitcoin. It means every single other country who doesn't have a strategic Bitcoin reserve is like, oh, fuck, like, now we've got to go buy Bitcoin to compete with the US, and the US already has an immediate advantage in being one of the largest holders already. Like, if I was a business-minded person, that's what I would do, and that also ends up forcing other countries to deregulate as well. So I think, like, that's, like, the real bull case from a regulatory standpoint, whether it actually happens or not, and whether Trump means what he's saying or not, or is just doing it to get votes, like, we'll find out if he wins, but that I think is, even if it's only a 10% chance of happening, is a pretty big systemic change, structural change, I think, for crypto, not just in the US, but globally. And that's what I think the positive sentiment is coming from. That's the hope, really.
I mean, when it comes to regulations, I think it depends on who you ask. I think if you ask someone in the US, then they are cheering for Trump. If you ask someone in Asia, then there's no regulation, so everything is possible. If you ask someone in Europe, then they rather want to leave Europe. For us, I mean, we are based in the Netherlands, so we get a lot of MiCA stuff coming up, especially for the consultancy. It's clearly impossible to get it. So if you're a small company, which means that in terms of growth for cryptos in general, I think that we are at this stage is super positive. Bitcoin won't die anymore, crypto is generally not going to die, so we get to a stage that's becoming an adult asset class. The worst part is that with regulation you're actually driving adoption, but you're killing innovation. So if you want to build something proper, it's impossible to do so because it's just too expensive. Like a general estimate of getting a MiCA license in the Netherlands is around €1 million. Except for the few $100,000 that you need to pay on a yearly cost after that. So you need to move out, or you just need to onboard with the big guys, and that's that. So I think it's going to change the entire landscape, and I think it's going to be great, but it's also becoming boring. So probably we are going to have one sort of final cycle where everything is easy, and we just need to wait until either the elections are done, whether Harris or Trump is going to be our next president, or until the 1st of January and the implications of MiCA in Europe, how that's going to be structured, where we just don't know. So, yeah, pros and cons, I guess. But I think a lot of VCs are waiting for these two events to happen, and if they are positive, then sky is the limit.
Yeah, just maybe to add, and also kind of to complement on what I said earlier in terms of driving mass adoption developments. I think it's according to the recent data, about 7.5% of global population using or holding cryptocurrencies, and the number will increase, so they surpass 8% by 2025, which means it's, from the niche it becomes mainstream. So that's kind of a trend, and obviously, it's natural that regulators will follow that. And from Memecoins' perspective, I think we all saw what happened like about 2 days ago, I think, in terms of Memecoin market makers. And again, so obviously Memecoins been very much focused on kind of speculative quick wins. I think, again, that's quite natural that it's going to happen. Also, just by the way, on talking about Dubai, which always used to be like the kind of crypto hub, and VARA regulations and recent kind of changes to VARA regulations also makes, I think yesterday they posted that there were some fines, like some marketing activities. So again, so to become tighter and tighter, even in the markets that historically were the crypto destinations. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Michael, really agree with the point that innovation, regulation is always lagging behind innovation. That's a fact. And we have seen a lot of regulation by enforcement in the US. And as a result of that, we've seen many businesses move abroad, shop for different locations, really. So I wanted to ask you guys, in terms of geographical regions, which ones are you more bullish about?
Asia. I think the whole bull cycle, and also some periods, if you're a trader, you can see that Asian times are bullish and US times are bearish. It's just I wake up and I'm like, oh, nice, it's a good day, and then it just transfers into a bearish day. I think we undervalue the impact of the liquidity from China and the adoption in Asia. I think they are very progressive, and that's going to be a big one. I think after that, if depending on the president, the US will follow, or it's going to be Africa, to be fair. I think Africa is growing really fast in terms of expansion of crypto too.
Yeah, I agree with Asia. It's just I went to Singapore for Token 2049 this year for the first time, and it's just different level, just different level of energy, but also the people you speak to, and there's, people are not complaining about, oh, we can't do this, or we got blocked from doing this. There's tons of innovation, and everything is pretty forward-thinking, and you don't just meet Asian people there, you meet tons of people who've moved there because there's just much more opportunity, and I don't know, it's hard to, in its current form, it's hard to really compete with that. I mean, Europe sucks, huh? It's probably the worst.
I'll just say, also Asia is number one, India, so it's something for us that also looks quite promising. And talking about Africa, I completely agree, because again, so why this kind of crypto adoption is growing there massively, just because of the failures in the local banking system. And it's also not kind of something that, because we're so innovative, we'll be just adopting crypto just because it's kind of necessity. So that's probably the only way that they can make their daily transactions. So they need crypto, so this will be growing, of course. But again, so value versus volume, I think that's also what's important to notice here. But yeah, absolutely, India, Asia for us, it's definitely a big focus.
That is great. Well, thank you guys for the insights. It's been great chatting to you about current trends, crypto hot takes, what's coming. So thank you guys for joining us as well. And that'll be all.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do you want to answer maybe one question, if anyone has one? Anyone have a question for anyone here? Not for them. Oh, yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, firstly, I want to say thank you so much for the talk, everybody. And which countries would you say in Africa are leading in crypto adoption and, in general?
I can take this one. Nigeria, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's because their old currency is screwed anyways. So that's showing the actual use case, right? If your currency gets fucked over, you jump to crypto. Getting a mortgage in Nigeria is 35% at this time, and the currency collapsed, so that's why it's the number 5 in the world of adoption. I think that is also the case in some South American countries at this point. I think Nigeria as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, well, big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you and your hot takes. Thank you so much.